Hi, and today I'm going to tell you about how to see the future and give you 5 techniques that you can try to see the future. And we'll also talk a little bit about Nostradamus and how he did it. So everyone knows about Nostradamus and assume he's an astrologer, don't you? But he actually used psychic techniques and then used his astrology to kind of reinforce what he was picking up using other methods. He used to, well, from his astrology, he used to use a technique called comparative horoscopy. Right, and basically what you do is you compare a horoscope from the past with a potential horoscope for the future. So that's the horoscope for the Battle of Hastings. Is there anywhere else we're going to see battles in the future if we look at the projected horoscope for the future? So he wasn't actually considered that good an astrologer, actually. Some of his clients used to think that he was used to be a bit inaccurate when he used to cast their horoscopes. And he actually used to interpret other people's horoscopes that had been cast and brought with them, you know. So he was using a lot of psychic skills as opposed just to using astrology all the time. Now, the techniques he used, now, you know, whatever technique a psychic uses is not important. It's the actual psychic's ability that's important. But he used to use a form of technique called scrying. Now, he used to use a copper bowl that he used to put water into and then put a sort of a cover over his head, I believe, and he'd have hazel twigs by the side of it, and that was kind of a magical thing, so he had to be a bit careful with that because the Pope would have had him for that. But he did have hazel twigs because hazel was used for wands and things. I think I mentioned this once before. And he used to drop into the water ink, and the ink would form like clouds. And you can imagine, like when you look at the clouds, you see pictures and shapes and images in there. Well, actually, I think Nostradamus was doing something very similar. Look into the forms coming in the clouds. You can imagine sat there with your candles on either side here, and you're looking into this dark, misty shapes forming in the water. And I can imagine you'd see things in there. You saw pictures and images. And then when it fades into a black, shiny, sort of dark sea and you're gazing into it, it must be a bit like gazing into your own unconscious mind. He was probably visually projecting into it. And probably, I say, because we don't know for certain. And we do know he used to take nutmeg, which was like a hallucinogenic if taken in large quantities, give you terrible indigestion. But remember, he was also he'd been a medic through his life. He knew all about medicines of the time. So he might have even taken hallucinogenics. But who knows what techniques he really used to connect as he did. And he used to have a big occult library too, so he would also reference lots of ancient teachings from the time right back to Delphi. So that's kind of one of the ways that Nostradamus used to work. But let's have a look now at 5 simple ways that you can work to learn how to do predictions like we do here on this channel. So if you're interested in learning, and I'll give this a plug a few times, sorry, but I'm going to plug my book, Psychic School. If you're interested in learning how to develop your psychic and your mediumistic skills, this is the book. I spent a lot of time writing this one. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of my experience in here working as a spiritualist. And it shows you how to develop your own skills, but not just sitting alone, but working with others so that you can prove what you're getting is real. So that's Psychic School, available on my website, available on Amazon. Now, one of the best and simplest ways to access your unconscious mind, which is where all your clairvoyance comes from because it comes up through beyond the rational somewhere, is through dreams. Now, in dreams, our rational mind is not there, is it? We're living this strange metaphorical world of allegory and imagery and symbolism, you know? And in that unconscious world, there is sometimes dreams that come true. I expect you've had one. If you've had one, put it in the comments, because I'd like to hear those. And I've written a lot about dreams in my books, and we all dream every night. We dream 3 to 4 times, 3 periods of REM activity, they call it, when the eyes are moving very fast, and we can tell that a person is dreaming. Now, most dreams are emotional. Dreams are all about our emotions, and that's why if you look at the emotion connected with the dream, you'll understand come quickly to an understanding of what the dream's all about, because what was I feeling in the dream, you'll understand the symbolism. That's another story. But certain dreams come almost out of the blue, and I've noticed that the dreams that come out of the blue that have a sort of a prophetic quality to them often don't have emotions connected with them. You know, they're not like dreams about funerals where there's all this fear associated with it and things like that. It's kind of almost matter of fact. That's how I interpret it. My dreams that have, I've noticed that are prophetic, always kind of bland, you know, and they're almost matter of fact, as if I just read it as a fact, you know. So that's how I look out for my own dreams that might be a prophecy and might have a prediction for the future. And the way to do it, the most important thing really, is if you write them down when you wake up and keep them in a dream diary. Now, I don't keep one so much nowadays, but for years I kept a dream diary. And if I look back at some of those from a long time ago, I look at them and think, wow, actually, that dream is all about what happened to me in 10 years later, you know? So there's a lot of prophecies about your own life intermingled with a load of inexplainable stuff, you know. But if you keep a consistent dream diary, not only does it give you a way of increasing the number of dreams you have, because you'll dream naturally if you start putting a dream diary by the side of your bed, because it's almost giving yourself an order to dream. But write them all down and check them out later, and you'll find that many of your dreams may be prophecies, not only of your life and your friends, but of the future of the world. So I do tell you all about dreams in my book. I warned you, Psychic School, and it's published under lots of other titles too, actually. It was originally published by Barnes & Noble in America under the Sterling imprint, and you can get it in illustrated versions, one of which is called Opening to the Other Side. It's the same book, but also out there. But I'm publishing it now on Amazon as Psychic School, and it tells you all about how to develop your psychic skills, not just of prophecy, but of all the psychic skills, particularly mediumship. Now, one other way to access our unconscious is meditation, and in particular meditation upon what we call the third eye. This is the pineal gland in the middle of the brain, which is responsible for our inner seeing. And that pineal gland is like an old eye, actually, an old ancient eye that we no longer use, that was used to predict the seasons. Some reptiles still have it. But that space inside ourselves has a certain quality to it that if we can awaken it, if we can stimulate it, it can increase our powers of clairvoyance generally. And prophecy, being precognition, is one of those qualities of ESP, the ability to see the future. And this is called the ajna center, in the chakra in the middle of the brain. And there's lots of techniques out there that you can use to access there. I actually use what we call Kriya techniques, which is in essence the idea of moving energy, or I see it as light, moving it up and down the spine, from the base of the spine to the middle of the brain and then back again. So you're moving this light up and down with the breath, because the breath is what controls it. This light is actually the prana energy, the life force that's in our bodies. And when we bring it to the middle of the brain, it's opening that third eye center. But we also have to then open the next center above. Now, it's not strictly a chakra, it's an energy field, I suppose you could call it, called the Sahasrara, which is like a light that appears over our heads, like a big mandala of light, and full of beautiful patterns and energy when you see it with your inner vision. And that connects us to the infinite, but it also connects us to this whole idea of multiple time zones and multiple time. And I believe it's through opening that top of the head, that energy center here, more so than the third eye, that we connect with the future. Very much in a nutshell there about that technique. I do explain it a lot more in my book, but that technique is one of the ways in to understanding clairvoyance and opening the third eye and your access to seeing things in the past, present and future. So that technique I have described is in my book, of course, but there's also, I've put a free video up on my channel about that, and you can find it in the comments below, in the description below rather, where I'll give you a link to it, and you can practice that technique now or after this video if you want. But it's all explained in my book, and that will show you how to open the third eye center as part of your training towards becoming a fully fledged clairvoyant. Now, the next technique that I would suggest you practice if you want to develop abilities to see the way ahead is to connect with the spirit world, basically. And to do this, I use a technique called what we call sitting for spirit. Now, this is normally done initially in a group, in a circle, we call it. Spiritualists would call it a circle, in which we sit and basically open our awareness, and we allow the spirit world to come close to us. Now, in order to get to that correct state of mental attunement, we would do a form of meditation that is very similar to Eastern techniques. You basically calm the mind. And when the mind becomes like a still pool, it's like the spirit world, you know, if it's like throwing a stone into a still pool. Even a tiny little stone will make a massive ripple if the pool is already still. So we still the mind and allow the spirit world to connect with us. This is what we call sitting for spirit. And there's a lot more to it than what I've just described here. But this is one of the things you could even try alone, quietly, to let the mind still and see what comes. Because if you get into that state of inner attunement, your friends and from the spirit world, your family from the spirit world, your benefactors and guides and helpers, and angelic kingdom you might call them as well, all come close if you are genuinely on a path to open your abilities to connect with the spirit. Most of it should be done, really, if you want to ever become a proper medium and a full-time psychic or whatever, should be done within a proper circle. You can find those at your spiritualist church if you're in the UK. But also you can develop those skills yourself and alone. It's okay, but it's better with a group, because the power, it's like the parts are greater than the whole if we can bring a whole group of people together, and then we get amazing things. I will be showing you more of these techniques later. We're going to be setting up some online seances next year, which we will allow you to connect with us live through YouTube and through Facebook, in which we can start doing some live spiritual teachings in a seance type setting, where we'll have a proper setting for it with some other people sitting with me. That's for the future. But that technique is called sitting for spirit. Now, the next technique is a yogic technique called Trataka. Okay, so you don't need to worry about the name. I'll put it up on the screen so you can look it up on Google if you want to, or DuckDuckGo, better than Google. This is a technique, basically it's called candle gazing, we could call it. In yogic thoughts, there's this idea of this dristi, which is the gaze. You know, many holy men would use their gaze in powerful ways. They would heal, for example, just by gazing. You know, the power of the gaze is very important. Something we don't know about in the West, but I believe is still there in some of the ancient teachings. But anyway, I'm distracting from what I need to talk to you about. Now, Trataka is like a focusing technique. It's a concentration technique in which we use a candle to hold the mind's attention. Now, in most people, when they do meditation, they jump into meditation without ever learning the basis of meditation, which is the focus of the mind. We've got to have concentration first. Not in the sort of sense that the Westerns use concentration. It's one-pointedness, it's been described as, in which we keep our mind focused. We've got to get our brain laser focused before we can do all these other techniques, which are more intuitive and open and receptive. But we've still got to have our mind focused, so it's not jumping all over the place like a wild monkey. So this technique I use, and it also will also, they say, and I found it works for me, it also enhances the sixth sense. So it's used mainly for focus, but it can enhance the sixth sense too. Sixth sense, hard to say that sometimes. So what you basically have is a candle. You have a candle that's at eye level with you. You have a gently lit room. You put your attention, eye level to the candle, and you put your attention to the base of the flame, where the wick is. And gaze, basically, relax, let the breathing relax, and then gaze into the flame. And just, you know, don't want your eyes watering, you don't stare into it, you gaze. That's why it's good to look it up. There's plenty on the web about this. And if you gaze into that flame and then close your eyes, you will see a little blue flame just in front of your third eye here, floating in the air where that was, an after image on the retina of the eye it is. But then you take that blue light and you bring it towards you and bring that light into the middle of your forehead. So you bring it in as your focus of concentration. Now that technique, and there's different steps after that, but that's the main technique. That technique of simply using an after image to pull into the middle of the brain like that is bringing your attention simultaneously into the third eye center that I talked about earlier. So you're opening up that ajna center, you're opening up that inner seeing. That is the source of your sixth sense. Remembering also we have to connect ultimately to the higher level of the highest chakras, but it is a focus. And also when you do it, it will still the mind, because your mind will be going jabber, 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 and you bring the mind back to the flame. Jabber, 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 back to the flame, right? And sometimes that image that you see, when you see that image, it will be jumping around that blue light that you see there. Still it, and it becomes still, so the jabber of the mind is beginning to slow down as well. So it's a very powerful technique that I think has been underrated and greatly misunderstood by a lot of the people using it in yoga. It is a technique that is there for clairvoyance, and there's a lot more to that, and I might describe another video later on about that. Okay, on to the next one. So I hope you're enjoying this, and I'm going to have a little clip at the end of this video of my mystic journey to India that you'll see on Amazon Prime. So keep watching when I after we've closed, and you'll get some more clips of what happened to me in India and why I'm so interested in so many of these Indian things. And if you're interested in having a reading yourself, don't forget you can also book one of our psychics. I'm not available for readings at the time of making this video, but I have a good team of people that are available as live psychics working. You can call them from America, you can call them from Ireland, you can call them from Australia, you can use the American number to call from Canada. They're all on my website at psychics.co.uk. Now, the final technique is really very simple, and I'm going to call it synchronicity, because when psychics work, we kind of attune ourselves, we resonate with the person in front of us. If I'm going to give somebody a reading, I've got to resonate with that person. And it's hard to explain what that means, but I'm vibrating, they're vibrating, and somehow we connect, you know. If they're very armoured, it's harder to get through. But it's amazing you can connect right across the world, and people phone me to do phone readings and things. I think, isn't it incredible that we can connect like that? And the mind of the medium also resonates to connect with the spirit world. So I have to align my thoughts with them. They bring their vibration down to mine, and I try to bring my vibration up to theirs, and somehow we connect, and my thoughts and their thoughts connect. So we do this sort of resonation. But also the world at large is a sort of resonance as well. And sometimes we connect with perhaps the divine principle that is behind this existence. And when that happens, sometimes strange things happen. We get coincidences, or people say the exact right thing at the right time that corresponds with something that I've been searching for, you know. And sometimes we can ask the universe for an answer. Can you tell me what to do? And sometimes an overheard conversation, or something said by somebody, or a message that comes, or an email that comes in even, all seem to sort of immediately connect with something that's very special to me. This same thing works, this idea that there's a certain quality to time that can come out when we, for example, ask the tarot cards a question. When we put the cards down, it's not just a random selection of the cards are coming kind of on that resonance. They're synchronizing with the question we've asked, so that only that card could have come down, and that card has a special quality to it that is way beyond the causal principles of the words. It's an acausal thing. So when this happens, we get these synchronicities, and sometimes in our life we get synchronicities like this. So if you are trying to get some prophecy about the world, this is what I'm doing. At the moment, I'm focused very much over these last few months on making predictions, because that's what I've been doing for the channel. My main interest is, of course, as a medium, and that's a completely different world, and you'll get much more of that next year, because I'm going to do some teachings about that, and like I say, I'm going to have a seance online. But basically, when we synchronize, I'm going off point again, but when we synchronize with things, we get messages. So if I'm trying to get a prediction for the future, sometimes I might just get an overheard conversation, and that might be so significant to what I'm thinking about and what I'm wanting to make with my prediction. So I might be thinking about something, I wonder what will happen to so and I hear an overheard conversation. Now that sounds a bit like paranoia in some respects, but the ancient Greeks used to do this. They used to tell you to sit in the marketplace and listen. I have a question, sit in the marketplace, and the first overheard conversation you hear is the answer to your question. So that's again a kind of form of synchronicity. The thing, you might see a picture in the clouds or something, or you might accidentally point to a certain book on your shelf and it's there. This synchronicity power is a very powerful thing. So you can actually use that, and I do, as part of my predictions. And all you have to do is be open to the idea that sometimes the universe will give you messages. It will tell you things. It will give you the answers through a chance conversation, through a chance thing you've seen or heard or done. And it doesn't come really when you think, right, give me a message. It don't happen like that. It kind of comes when it's least expected. So that's the last thing I would say as your way to make predictions, if you're interested in trying this yourself, is to watch and be aware that sometimes the divinity of the universe is actually speaking to us and can tell us things in a most unexpected way. So there's 5 techniques you can try, and I'll give you some more later in the year. Coming up, a few more clips coming up of my journey to India, and if you want to see that, it's on Amazon Prime. You can watch the whole thing. You can't see it in all countries, but you can see it in America, you can see it in the UK, certainly, I know that much. So go and have a look at that. And I was very inspired by India and some of the ideas that they came up with there, and some of the things that taught me really about the unity of religion, for example, that behind it all is the same universal teachings. It's the universe speaking to us, isn't it, really? So some of those ideas have come in the thoughts today. But anyway, enjoy this little clip from Mystic Journey to India. Oh, and don't forget to follow this channel, folks. If you're new here, please do subscribe. If you click that little bell thingy that comes up like that, yeah, click the little bell thingy, and you will get regular updates, and you'll be able to follow this channel. And please do all contribute to the comments, because this is when it gets interesting, when people start interacting and we build a little bit of a community around this. So give us a thumbs up, and not just as physical beings, but spiritually too. The teachings tell us that our soul has evolved from animal into human, and our time on earth now, in human form, is an opportunity to become fully awakened. And that's why so many take to the spiritual path, touch the feet of gurus, and seek the solace of meditation. I have thrown myself into mystic India and undertaken rituals that many would find perplexing. I have had the blessings of the gods and of holy people and holy places, and have done many rituals to open the path that the oracle predicts will happen. Some of this has been a cultural shock, but I feel that it is leading me to the light. My adventure has taken me thousands of miles across India, and I have enjoyed places that few Westerners visit. But it has taught me also the importance of charity. As we give to others, their good thoughts projected towards us help us to evolve too. It's a win-win situation. And of course, helping others is part of the Christian message too, and the Muslim message, and the Buddhist and Jewish message. I think I have learned that there is not much difference between it all. It's an adventure doing spiritual things, and when people get really helped and you see their lives quickly changed, it opens your heart wide. Will all these strange astrological remedies change things? I have done the rituals, and I have burnt the karma. I have thrown the past into the flames. I have taken my journey and explored my soul. I have cut the ties with my karma, and now a new destiny awaits. India's just the start. Indian culture believes that it goes back 10,000 years to an ancient lost knowledge, and that same lost knowledge is in other cultures, other religions, other beliefs. So come with me on my next adventure.